Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. It's out in theaters this weekend, guys. And should you go see it? I would say, yeah, it's big. It's huge on the big screen. And you want to take advantage of that. Now, I saw it in a 3D version, and I gotta say that it's not really worth seeing it in the 3D because they try to mask maybe some of the CG work in it with the 3D aspect ratio and stuff because uh, stuff gets blurred out or it's darkened. You don't need to see it in 3D, but like you go to see it for the big monsters throw down. And
stop this on his
I said
own.
it in my straight out of the theater
He
reaction.
won't be alone.
This movie delivers that. You think that this part looks kind of funny and stuff, but when he fights Scar King is the bad guy in this one, and Scar King is a good villain. I enjoyed it quite a bit, a lot more than I thought I would, because when you watch it, it's kind of like I don't care about the humans. Just get the show me the monsters. I don't want to see the human story. But they actually do a really good job. Brian Tyree Henry is back in there. Rebecca Hall, Dan Stevens does a good job in this. Like Dan Stevens is sort of like the comic relief. He's kind of like a big veterinarian, if you could say that. He studies the kaiju, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, there's some interesting things going on with that. And they go and they talk about, well, what happened to Monarch? Well, and it was like, yeah. So they address all of those fan concerns we have, like, well, we drop so many storylines. Dan Stevens, as I said, does a great job. Will somebody out there say that he feels out of place, that he doesn't feel like he belongs in this movie? Maybe. But I thought he did fairly good. And this little thing here, I laughed out loud on his opening scene because you're just like, oh, isn't he cute? And he gets totally just, yeah. Anyway, there's little things in there that like that get me energized. I'm like, I'm enjoying this movie. I know that it's like, if I'm gonna be super analytical about the structure of this of the movie and look at the plot points and stuff like that, logic, of course it fails. I'll give you an example. It stands to reason that if there's a cave and you are inside that cave standing there, and I have to go around a corner to see you standing there, that if I walked in from outside to see you standing there, then you should also be able to go around the corner and walk out of the cavern, right? You see that? Like, if you're not tied up or anything like that, you're just wanting to get out, stands to reason you should be able to get out. It's little logical things like that if you are so nitpicky and let little things like that get at you, of course this movie's going to fall flat for you. It's not going to work for you. But you let it go because you're wanting to watch Godzilla and Kong. Do you get kind of like a rematch between the two? Actually, yes, you kind of do. But then, yeah, they throw down with you get to see Scar King there. And I like the bone kind of whip that he's got. I think they explain this armor here very well. His power glove hand. They even call it that, guys. So all your fun, like, little nitpicking things that you'd be like, no, they explain it very, very well. And it's kind of like, this has no business being as good as it should be. Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. And as I said, coming out of the theater, is it as good as Godzilla -1? No, of course not. You can't rate it on the same scale, though, right? Godzilla -1 is a lot more serious in tone. Of course, the human characters are more developed in Godzilla -1, so that you actually care when somebody's about to die. In this one, would I care if any of this cast were to expire? Well, maybe a little bit of Rebecca Hall. And the two guys I got nothing against. But Adam Wingard directs, and I heard in a press screening this week that he was kind of like, this movie's really more about the point of view from the monsters. Um, and we really want to focus in on that. And I was like, yeah, they just say that. It's not going to really happen. But there's good sections of this movie that are just the monsters, no dialogue. Because Kong doesn't talk. He just growls and stuff like that. But when he's down in the Hollow Earth exploring, trying to find other apes like him, and of course we know that we does find them, that there's just scenes going on. I'm like, there's no dialogue going on here. This has been like 10 minutes. Oh, this is good. And you understand it. You understand everything that's going on through body language, and like, kudos to the visual effects team for pulling that off. There's Rebecca Hall in a rather revealing, wow, red carpet. Wow. Dan Stevens, what do you think about that jacket? Ooh, it's a little bit loud for my taste, but he seems to be rocking it okay, I guess. There's the director, Adam Wingard. Oh, that's a good poster. That's an international poster. I like that poster. So, know that all the stuff going in. Let's just pull up my preliminary score sheet and start filling in some of the numbers. We'll get through this rather quickly, guys, because acting, directing, and story are of a possible 2 points. Cinematography and score are out of a possible 1 point each. So acting overall, guys, I would have to give... obviously, nobody's Oscar worthy in this. But because Dan Stevens and Brian Tyree Henry have some really good banter back and forth, and then Rebecca Hall and the young girl also have some good banter back and forth. So that was kind of cool. I enjoyed that. So I'll give 1.5 for the acting. I'll give 1.5 for the directing, because there is some stuff here that I got to talk about visual wise, which is kind of weird. And I'll give 1.5 for the story. Will I? Yeah, because the story made sense. But as I said, there's some minor nitpicks in there that may it'll make you go like, why didn't you just walk out of the cave? Anyway, cinematography, I am going to give a full point to, and why did that go up? I'm going to give a full point to the cinematography, because there's multiple times when they're in the Hollow Earth and they're just going through all of it, and when they're fighting in the end, where it's just breathtaking imagery, breathtaking, and it's just like, even with the 3D glasses on, you're just kind of sitting back and going, that's a really cool image. Now, conversely, on the opposite side of that, there's still score was fine. There's still an attribute to the visual effects where you look at Kong or the apes, and if you were to compare it to, say, like Planet of the Apes or Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, like in a single frame it looks good, but in motion your mind still says that's just a CGI creation. And if you were to say to me at the end, where it just feels like a big cartoon, just, you said that about Shang-Chi, James, that it just turned into a big cartoon. Well, of course they've got to use CG for these big things, right? Our brains still haven't, like, there's still work in the way that the hair and lies, that it's kind of like, yeah, that's just a computer doing it. It doesn't feel fully tangible like the way that Godzilla -1 did. Like, you didn't quite feel the weight of them, if you know what I mean. It was sort of like a big cartoon, and I would say, yeah, I can see that right up off the bat. But other than that, I thought it was pretty decent. It was a good time. So let's go over to the tomato meter and see what people are saying. See if we agree with some of the snapshot reviews. Oh, 54% by critics, 92% by the audience, and yes, guys, this is an hour and 55 minutes. No post-credit scene, no mid-credit scene, so you don't have to stick around for anything like that. But this is just fun, and you rate it on that fun scale, okay? I sat there with my friends, had popcorn, we all laughed at the same moments. It moved rather quickly. There wasn't any time in there where I was like, oh, come on, let's get on with it. For God's sake. There was nothing like that, right? Um, but because of that cave little analogy that I used, I'm guessing that's how the critics are going to pick this apart. Godzilla King of the Monsters only hit 42%, so it's bigger than that. But Godzilla versus Kong had 76%. That was the best one. To tell you the truth, I think I liked Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire better than Godzilla versus Kong. And we watched that one together, right? Snapshot reviews. Let's go in and see if we agree. Um, RogerEbert.com. Didn't like it. The live action and motion capture performances are mostly marvelous despite the bum dialogue and Wingard's tendency to rush through sequences and the whole relationship that might have been extraordinary had they been presented with patience and elegance. I said that the pacing was good. I could see that towards the end it felt a little jumpy, it felt a little quick. It was like, oh, we're doing that now? Wow, okay. Yeah, I could see that. That's why I knocked it down for story-wise, right? Just starting. What I liked about this, see this image here? There's some trickery going on here. Because this is not in the movie. Or it is, but there's something else going on in it. And I want to highlight this. You see that image there as the thumbnail. You see the one below it from Screen Culture. You look at that thumbnail and you're like, okay, well that's CG stuff. They've put in what appears to be Mothra there. That doesn't happen. But it's weird because they showed us this thumbnail clip here in the trailers and stuff. They took something out of that image. So in the official image here, they've taken something out that you'll realize in the theater is like, wait a minute, something's in this shot that's not in this right there. It's not there. Something's in here that's not there. Why did they do that? Like, why did they cut this thing out here? I don't get it. So there's things like that happen in it. It'd be kind of like weird. No, Godzilla does not grow wings like this. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of fan posters out there, and just ignore that. You don't need that. I just thought it was a bit of a curiosity to share. Somebody who liked it, the Washington Post. Wingard's not a sentimentalist, and Godzilla X Kong stumbles wherever he tries to slap phony emotions onto the film to make it more like a generic crowd pleaser. Yeah, I could see that. He's a showman, a popcorn guy with excellent aesthetics. Yeah, there's a scene in here where it's kind of like Rebecca Hall and the young daughter Gia, Kaylee Hottie. So Hottie or Hoddle? What? I don't even know what that. Hoddle, sorry. Who did a good job. There's a scene in there where it's like, okay, you found other people like you. Do you want to go with them? I'm your mother, kind of thing. And they try to pay that off. Well, I thought it was a little bit on this, but Rebecca Hall and her did a good job in pulling off that scene that I thought. Sorry, I don't mean that to be spoiler. It's kind of obvious, right? They go down there and they find people like her, right? And you see that in the trailer and production photos and stuff. So I don't consider that too spoilery. Sorry if you do. It is what it is. Let's go see if there's some other critics here that I respect name wise, and then we'll wrap up my score and get us out of here. I was hoping to see either Perry Nemiroff or maybe somebody else, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Okay, Richard Roper didn't like it, despite the addition of some new characters, human and otherwise. Godzilla X Kong. The New Empire comes across as a relatively uninspired and repetitive effort, and a fairly forgettable chapter in the MonsterVerse saga. Really, really? No, I came out of it. It was like I want to see more. Guys, you've established a really interesting universe where we've learned to coexist with these big creatures. Let's see more movies. Like, if you're going to make it about humans, why can't we just have like a small little spin-off of like people trying to exist in a world where there's these big monsters? Well, there's Matt Donato. He liked it. Godzilla X Kong is kaiju comfort food. Wingard clearly loves this franchise and its monsters. That enjoyment is infectious. All right. So let's wrap up my score sheet and get us out of here. It's worthwhile seeing in the theater, guys. Sound design, big, of course, always. See where I land on my score sheet. For watchability factor, if you're a fan of Godzilla and Kong, you want to see it at least once, right? I say see it in the theater for the big sound. 7.5. That's about right. That's about right. 7.5 out of 10. I mean, it's no masterpiece. This is not one where you'd be like, guys, this has got to be up for best picture. No. And it's weird. It's going to be hard where to place this in my ranking for March here. Because obviously Doom Part 2 is still the number one movie, right? That's going to be probably the number one movie of the year. So it's kind of like, how can anything else compete? But right now, it's probably in line to be second or third. I really like Love Lies Bleeding. But Kong, sentimental wise, in here is up here. And to see him go off on this little adventure to try to find people or treat his, people that look like him and stuff. I like that story, man. And then because it was like an A and B story, right? You've got the A story of Kong trying to find his peoples. And then you've got this B story of Godzilla up on the surface, wreaking havoc, fighting other kaiju, getting himself prepared for a big battle kind of thing. And it's like, well, what's going on with that? And out of the two stories, I prefer the Kong story, obviously, because he does develop kinship with that smaller creature that we've seen in the trailers, right? The small baby Kong that people say. But guys, go see it in the theater this weekend. Yeah, there's Scar. Throws him. Yeah, it's almost like, I want to see more. Like, I don't know why they cut the thing out here. But they did. Godzilla X Kong, guys, 7.5. The New Empire, in my books, it's a good movie, good theatrical experience. Good theatrical experience. Is it going to win Best Picture of the Year? No, but it's worth your time and money if you can go out and see it. You can skip the 3D. Thumbs up in my book. All right, guys, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and we will talk about it. There's no point in really talking about spoilers in this. I mean, what do you think happens? Godzilla and Kong team up and defeat Scar King? Is that really a spoiler? No, of course they team up and defeat Scar King, but it's kind of like the journey to get there and how scary Scar King actually is. Because
now I have seen everything.
The size that you would think. But anyway, it's just interesting stuff. I would watch it again. I want to see more in this universe. And I was really worried that this one would kind of be like, leave a sour taste in people's mouths enough that people would be like, okay, we're done. We're done. We can put this version of Godzilla and Kong behind us. But based on Thursday night previews that made 10 million on Thursday, guys, it may not be. So hopefully keep our hopes up and we'll see more in this series. Because I'd be on board for it. And I hope you guys would be too. All right. That's it for me, guys. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and I'll see you next time right here on Your Domains. All right. Let's get into some... Get some YouTube comments. High energy review. Pump it up.